empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go. Welcome to the Morning Scoop. It is July 21st, and we have a wonderful show planned for you today. We're going to unveil one of maybe my biggest pet projects I've been working on for the last couple of years, something that is finally ready to go into orbit and launch and blast off. I'm so excited about this. I'm going to have Nevada on here with me to talk about kind of the direction we're going to go with this new apparatus that we have, and I'm super excited about it. But with that being said, as always, very thankful for you guys. Appreciate you guys as always. If you're listening to this on Spreaker, leave us a 5-star review. If you're listening to this on YouTube or watching this on YouTube, leave us a like. This will be a fun one for the comments section because the question is, and I don't have all of them, but what games from the last few years would you like me to break down? I have every game from 05 and 06. Have a lot of games from the last couple of years. Full coaches film, all 22 film. You really get to see the nitty gritty. It's in 4K, super detailed. It's going to be a blast. I'm so excited about this. So with that being said, we're going to head into the film studio. Got my friend Nevada. Nevada, how are you?
Doing great. Excited to see some of this game film, break down some of these games, and see what kind of happened out here for Ohio State, both the good, the bad, and the ugly for the Ohio State team next year. I think it'll give us a good idea of what to expect this year as well, because a lot of times when you're watching the television broadcast, you miss little things, and I know you're not going to miss a thing here with this all 22 film. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, I'm excited. This was a game, I wanted to start off with a feel-good game. This won't be a full breakdown episode. We're more just kind of showing people, our tech that we have now. We're going to do a fuller, slower breakdown where we go over some of the nuanced stuff. But, I wanted to start with a feel-good game, maybe the most dominant half of football I've ever seen by Ohio State. Michigan State was rated 9th in the country. They'd actually beaten Michigan. And, we come out and we beat them, it's 49-0 at halftime, versus a top 10 school. And, Mel Tucker just signed his massive, I don't know if it was a 9-figure extension, but it was a huge extension, to lock him up for a long time at Michigan State. It's that Michigan win was very lucrative for Coach Tucker, who was actually at Ohio State when I was there. Great coach. But, today it was one of the days where CJ Stroud was just fantastic. I believe he had 6 touchdowns, north of 400 yards. I was looking at the stats before the game. CJ Stroud in this game, 32 for 35, 432 yards, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The leading receivers, it was just video game numbers. Chris Olave, 7 for 140 and 2 touchdowns. Garrett Wilson, 7 for 126 and 2 touchdowns. Jackson Smith-Njigba, 10 catches, 105 yards and a touchdown. Just absolutely stunning numbers. Master Teague actually was the leading rusher with 95 yards. This was quite the performance. Nevada, what were your thoughts about the team after you watched this absolutely dominating performance?
Well, it brought back memories of that Bobby Hoying game against, I think it was Iowa, who was highly ranked, came in and Ohio State had an unbelievable half of football. And like you said, this might have been the greatest half of football in Ohio State history. And I don't think that's hyperbole to do that against a top 10 team and to put it on the way that we did. I think that it just goes to show you when the Ryan Day offense gets going, if it has any support from the defense, if the defense can get any kind of stops, that the Ohio State offense is awfully difficult to contain, and they can attack you in so many different ways, and they certainly did it in this game. They attacked him every conceivable way you can attack a defense.
Yeah, and it was again. I think that I'm excited about what Jim Knowles' defense is going to add to complement this offense, especially from a pressure standpoint on defense. I believe that one of the things that is imperative is we have to generate more pressure than we did last year. Whether it's sacks, whether it's quarterback hurries, just affecting the quarterback is something that we weren't good at last year, and I think it's something that Jim Knowles is excellent at, and he's done it with lesser players at places like Oklahoma State and Duke. So I think as we get ahead in these games, there's real opportunities for some of these defenders to get after the quarterback. And this is a game where we rattled them early and they kind of folded their 10 up and we beat them. It was 49-0 when they walked in the locker room, so they knew they weren't going to come back and win. And it was this was a game where a lot of people really were starting to believe in the Bucks. It was a great run by Trey. Huge hole on the left side of the line. But Nevada, talk a little bit about this. We've been wanting to do a film breakdown show. Talk a little bit about kind of the vision that you see for this going forward. Obviously, this is kind of my baby. I spent a pretty good amount of money to get the equipment I needed to do this show, which includes telestration, rewinding, like a lot of things that I want it to really look slick and be fun to watch and be informative, but also fun. But talk to me a little bit about what you and a guy like Bill Green could add to a show like this, along with myself, because I think that could be a pretty entertaining show to watch.
Well, I think we got to go back to what our goal is here with the channel and with the site. Our goal is to make you the most knowledgeable fan possible. And I think, shows like this where you can see every angle on the play, you can break down in kind of layman's terms exactly what's going on, what happened, what guys did well, what guys didn't do so well, and why the play worked or why the play didn't work. To me, that's much more helpful as a fan than talking about why, gap, Z, contain, boundary, monkey, hippo. So I think this type of format where you can look at plays, you can simply talk about it, and then people can kind of evaluate for themselves. I don't think I think people feel a little bit intimidated by the terminology and feel like they've got to be an expert on football to have an opinion on this stuff. And I think when with this type of technology, anybody can really kind of you can look with your own eyes and see who's getting the job and see who's not getting the job done, and draw your own conclusions regarding what's good and what's not so good. And I think that's the best thing about this show.
Yeah, I mean the great thing about when you have the coaches film is, especially when you evaluate line play technique, how close are we to being good versus is it a large chasm? Like, are guys just getting whipped up front, or is it just one guy missing a block and the play's dead because of that? There's again, there's not excuses, but sometimes you can see like guys were close because we have four guys crushing their guy, but one guy takes a false step or is laid off the ball. And again, you can see Paris Johnson, playing right guard last year, crumples this guy. It's a stretch play. The guy probably couldn't have even if Paris didn't even touch the guy, probably couldn't have made the play. But he puts him on the ground, seals him up. Dewan, this is a really tough block for Dewan. He really has to go flat here and get. It's funny to say get skinny because Dewan weighs like 380 pounds or whatever he weighs, and it's hard for him to get skinny. But that's a really tough block for him to get. But with the way the scheme is and the speed of the edge, it doesn't even matter. The guy's not even a factor in the play, even with a running start, even with Dewan, missing his guy. Luke Whippler does a great job getting up to the second level. Backside, I mean, Thayer and Nick basically are they're blocking man on in case there is a keep, but it holds the safety because, again, with the misdirection of the blocking, I'm actually going to get the telestrator because I'm just so excited about the telestrator. You have these guys, blocking out here. It's just a jet sweep with a keep read. But by doing this where you seal here and here, it holds him. It holds the safety. He's the guy that he's looking, dropping. I mean, he doesn't know what to do here. And you've got all this motion over here with the jet motion, with kind of the convoy of linemen all working here, and it's just one of those things where this is just so hard to defend when you have athletes like Jackson Smith and Jigba running to the edge, and it's just painful to watch. And that's like the neat thing about some of the stuff that Kevin Wilson likes to do. Some of the horizontal stuff is really tough to defend. And then you've got your receivers like this that just get open, guys like Garrett Wilson. And it's going to be fun breaking down some of these guys. I want to break down some Oklahoma State. We've got the Big 12 championship game against Baylor. And, in that game, Jim Knowles is a masterpiece of a defensive game plan. And I was watching that for a little bit. We've got the national championship game, Georgia versus Bama, the SEC championship game. Got some Notre Dame stuff we can break down to kind of preview week one. So just real excited about this because I think this is content that people are really gonna love and I think I'm gonna try to do some live shows of this and have people that are members of Buckeye Scoop can ask questions live and they can give us kind of some feedback on what they want to see or if you have a question or if you'd like something explained I can do my best to explain it. Obviously, I have a pretty strong knowledge of football, but the interior stuff I'm really sound at. Some of the edge stuff, it might make sense to have someone else on. I could have a former player, I could have a former defensive back, a former wide receiver join me, and I think that would be some good stuff. This is just an incredible catch by Olave, but again, this was one where I I was going to ask you this, Nevada. Do you think that this game mentally kind of screwed up Ohio State going up to Ann Arbor in the Michigan game, given that these guys actually beat Michigan, and then these guys come up to Michigan, they play flat. Do you think there was anything to that or any thought of that?
Yeah, I mean, I've always believed that the mental aspects are so important, especially in the game, and like you said, Michigan State beat Michigan. Ohio State goes up; they're up 49-0 at halftime in this game. There's no way that didn't sneak into the back of their heads, going up the game. And we've talked many times about it, how Ohio State was just not ready at that game. They looked like they walked into a knife fight and they weren't ready to go. And Michigan was ready to go. And all the credit in the world for Harbaugh and those guys because they played the best that I've seen them play in a long time, and they basically just kicked Ohio State all over the field. So I'm not sure if you can blame it on this game, but it's certainly beating a top 10 team like this so convincingly certainly made Ohio State feel like a little better about themselves than maybe they were, and it cost us up in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, I think that kids get guilty of scoreboard watching and comparing. I mean, hell, I was guilty of it when I played. If there was a team that just got annihilated, if you watch Purdue lose to Michigan or whatever, sometimes things don't make sense. Like in '03, Purdue actually opened up the season and lost to Bowling Green. And Bowling Green was not very good, and they beat Purdue in Ross-Ade Stadium. And then by the end of the season, in '03 we played Purdue, and I believe it was an overtime game, but I mean we barely got by them, and they were really talented. They were really good. They had Anthony Spencer, Ray Edwards. They had some really good defensive ends that were talented dudes, and it just sometimes I think it just kids are they look at things, they say, oh well, they must be terrible because Michigan State beat them and we beat Michigan State, and mentally I think that's something you really have to guard as a coach. Here's Garrett Wilson again. Like it's fun watching this, but it's also kind of sad that you realize these guys are all gone now. But the pass protection here is fantastic. Good chip by Cade, chip and release by Cade, which is again, this is something that this technique here between Cade and Nick Petit, this is a great way if you're going against a really good defensive end like a Chase Young type. This is a great way to disrupt him. Just throw a shoulder on him. The tackle kind of has to sit inside out, thinking that he's going to get shoved inside. The rest of the way you got Dewan's wound up, locks his guy down. You got a double team. You basically have a double team, single block. Trey checks and goes, and I love this protection because it's like a 5.5 man protection because Cade's like half a man because he chips and releases and gets out in a little dump off. But when you have a guy like Garrett who can just run past guys, it doesn't really matter because he's just so talented. And CJ puts it on the money. Straight dot right into his hands. And these guys are doing a lot of dancing, a lot of smoke, a lot of fireworks going off this game. And this was a fun one. It was one that I think most of the country didn't expect just because Michigan State's defense had been pretty stout. But, I always look at the statistics and I look who teams have played against. And I don't think Michigan State, obviously they hadn't seen an offense like Ohio State. They hadn't seen skill like Ohio State. So sometimes, when a team's got like a lofty defensive rating. But yeah, I'm just excited for this tech. I think this will be something that people really enjoy. So in closing, Nevada, what are some games you want to break down? I know we've got a really good nugget today, got a really good bank blog today, but what's your vision for this going forward? And why are you excited to be able to break down and release some of these classic Ohio State games?
Well, I think for me as a fan, your mind plays tricks you. You think the memories are perfect of these games, and minds really aren't a like a recording device. They're imperfect, and I forget so many of these big plays and how things went. And that's why it'd be fun to go back in the '05 season. It'd be great to see in the '06 season. It'd be great to go back to some of the games last year and kind of see what happened and see how close our memories are to what actually happened on the field. Like I said, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's fun to just see, who was really getting the job done, especially, from, the O line perspective, the D line perspective, because, most people don't notice that just because you're usually watching where the ball is. You're watching the skill guys. And, O linemen don't have stats. D linemen, they have sacks and some tackles for loss and tackles, that kind of thing. But it's always interesting to see, who are the workhorses on the inside that are maybe doing a great job, but they don't really get the credit that they deserve. So again, but it's fun. Just, I mean, you see these guys. There's Olave wide open again. You see how good these receivers are, and it's also fun to watch this after you realize how fast these guys were. We knew they were fast, but when Olave runs a 4.26 at the combine and Garrett Wilson runs a 4.38, then you realize that these guys were legitimately as fast as maybe we've ever had outside of maybe a Joey Galloway and those types of guys. So, but I'm super excited about this. I'll let this one last touchdown play, and yeah, we're gonna miss these guys. Good lord, wow, what talent! But yeah, this is it's only 21-0, and it's still the first quarter. So might break down the second quarter tomorrow. Might sit and do a live show and break down the first half. Have some members of Buckeye Scoop on here. So appreciate you, Nevada. Gonna lock this thing down. Huge things on Buckeye Scoop. We had a great bank blog, updated most of the main targets. The latest on Caleb Downs, the latest on Mateo Uiagalelei. Some of these guys that are big targets come down the stretch for Ohio State in recruiting. I think that having Bill Green with his kind of his ear to the ground, getting some of the latest intel, those things are huge for us right now. Board is on fire. Best community there is for Ohio State football. The best insider information, bar none. We appreciate you guys as always. I'll be on the boards into the late nights. Again, it's popping, and there's no off season on Buckeye Scoop, so we're really cranking up. And training camp opens in less than 2 weeks. So if you guys really don't know what's going on inside the Woody Hayes, get on BuckeyeScoop.com. Appreciate you guys, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Buckeye Scoop family. See you guys on the message boards. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.